So today we're going to be showing you how we plan out all of our trips when we're traveling in the RV. We use a tool called RV Trip Wizard, and RV Trip Wizard is part of the RV Life family. So RV Life is just like a nice set of tools for RVers, which is like RV Safe GPS, Campground Reviews, obviously RV Trip Wizard.
Yeah, a bunch of cool tools for RVers.
Yeah.
But today specifically we're going to jump into RV Trip Wizard, which is what we're using essentially to plan out all of our RV trips for 2022, kind of map out where we're going to be staying and for how long. So today I'm going to actually take you guys into the tool. I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk you through how to basically set up a trip and to start like booking everything and planning everything and what the tool looks like. So let's go jump into my computer screen. Okay guys, so to get started, I came to the main like RV Life Trip Wizard. We were calling it RV Trip Wizard. They're actually like transitioning to calling it RV Life Trip Wizard, just to kind of unify all the products within the RV Life umbrella. When you get to this website, all you want to do is, if you already have an account, you'd go to member login. If not, you can sign up and you get a 7-day free trial. Also, RV Life is a channel sponsor of Matt's RV Reviews. At the time of this video, we have a discount code. I think it's Matt's RV Reviews, all caps, that you can use to get, I think, an additional 25% off. So I'll put that down below if you guys want to try to utilize that. I don't know if it'll be active by the time you see this video, but right now it is. So I'm going to go ahead and go to member login and go to planner. Okay, so when you get to this main screen, you'll have an option to open a trip or start a new trip. So you can basically plan out your RV travels into separate trips if you want to segment it, or maybe you're not a full-time RVer and you just like go out on one big trip for the year, like in the summer. So you can kind of split it up how you want. I'm gonna go ahead and start a new trip for this video, and we're gonna name this 2022 test trip. And it'll ask you, do you know what day you're leaving? Yes or no. So I'm gonna go ahead and say today's the 15th. I'm gonna say I'm leaving on March 20th. And you can choose to put your starting location from what your current location is, or you can select a certain location. I am not home right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna put in the RV one of Tampa, because that is actually where we're gonna be picking up our RV in a couple weeks, and we'll kind of be like starting our RV trip from there. So we're gonna start it like that. And then when you set up your trip, you'll be asked to kind of fill in some settings for it when you start. So you can add any notes about it. You can say it's active now, or it's tentative trip, like maybe you're just like planning for fun. And you can also get like a pre-departure email with like your route and other things. So one really cool thing about RV Life, again, is that it has this umbrella of products. So when you make your trip with RV Trip Wizard, it's very compatible also with Campground Reviews, which you can use to kind of plan out what campgrounds you want to stay at and look at the reviews and stuff about that. But also it works with the RV Safe GPS that RV Life owns. Within RV Trip Wizard, you can put in your RV's information to tell it like the height, the width, and everything, and it's going to make sure that then once you go and start to use the GPS part of the product, it's making sure that it's not taking you on any roads that aren't safe for your RV, basically. So they have two ways of doing it. It's really cool because you can actually look up your RV info. Now they won't have every single brand and make of RV in here. Obviously there's so many different types of RVs, so I'm sure it's like a pretty challenging to like keep up with it, but they're gonna have a lot of stuff in here. So we have a Alliance Avenue. So the Alliance Avenue is actually not in here yet for 2022. They do have the Paradigm and the Valor. So I would say, if you definitely try this first to see if you can just select your exact RV and it'll have all the dimensions and everything. Or if you don't have your RV in that list, you can manually input all of your information. So we actually already have the information, height, length, weight for our Avenue. They'll ask you if you're carrying propane. And then also you can put your fuel information for your truck or your motorhome. And you can say like what fuel type you want, what your fuel capacity is. And the really cool thing is like you can get fuel warnings. So say you plan out your trip and, in one day you're trying to drive from Florida to Texas. It will basically give you warnings, hey, like your fuel is going to run out probably at these points. So that's a really, really cool feature. You can decide how many warnings you want to get, I guess. And then over here to the routing and driving, this is what's going to be compatible with the GPS part of the product. So you can do your standard routing for cars, which is not going to take into effect your height, length, and weight. Or you can do RV routing, which is what we do, and you can tell it to avoid tolls, highways, ferries, tunnels, unpaved roads. I think usually we select to avoid unpaved roads. And then it'll estimate your driving time, so you can do it based on your average driving speed, or just the routing engine estimate, which is probably going based off of the speed limit. And then there are some other features that you can adjust. One thing is roughly how many hours you want to drive per day, and it'll kind of help adjust your trip for that. And then the last tab is expenses, where you can kind of put in your average cost per day for some of the categories like camping, meals, average cost per gallon of gas, which is really variable right now, and it'll kind of give you an estimate of like what your cost is going to be per day and per trip. So once you input all of that, I'm going to save and finish. Now is when I can start actually building out my trip. So this is the fun part. And so the cool thing is like the Campground Reviews part is kind of integrated into this. So I can almost be like figuring out what campground I want to stay at in an area while I'm building out my trip. Okay, so right now I only have one spot on the map, and that's my starting point, which is the RV1 of Tampa. Now, I know that once we pick up the RV, we might stay in Florida for a couple days, so I want to figure out where we're staying there. The plan is to stay at Camp Margaritaville again, which is where we stayed before. We made a whole video on Camp Margaritaville you can check out. It's a great campground in the Lakeland, Florida area, which is pretty much halfway between Tampa and Orlando. So that's the plan, is to try to stay there again. And so what I'm gonna do is I can actually like search for it in the search bar. So I'm gonna say Camp Margaritaville RV Resort in Auburndale. So that's what I'm looking for. And as you can see, like immediately it's telling me like the star ratings, how many reviews, showing me some of the amenities that it has. And I can actually click on park details, and it's going to essentially bring up the entire Campground Reviews part of the product right into this. So I really like that like I don't have to leave the RV Trip Wizard to go and like specifically look at the campground information. As you can see here, it says like reviews powered by Campground Reviews. And it's going to tell me all about the park, roughly how expensive it is. I'm going to have pictures, all that stuff, even like the average like weather for Auburndale. So they have a lot of like good information to help you plan out your trip. So I'm going to add this to my trip. And I think that we'll probably stay there for like 3 nights. I can lock the date of stay, or I can leave it flexible. I usually leave it flexible, and what that means is like as you build out the trip, you'll see there are ways of like rearranging things and like changing how many nights you stay somewhere, and then it will kind of like adapt your whole trip to that. But if you lock in a stay, then it's kind of like this is locked in, this will not change, so everything will change around it. So I usually leave it flexible so that I can just like easily like play around with the days, move things around. So then what's really cool is when you add the stop, you can choose to add it after the last stop that you created, or you can choose a specific stop you have in your trip. So right now I only have one stop because it's starting out. So I'll just say after the last stop, and it's gonna basically like put it as the next stop on my trip. I can write any comments about it or whatever, and then I can add it to my trip. So keep in mind that like you're like tentatively putting these campgrounds on your trip. You still are going to have to contact the campgrounds to actually book your stay there. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. But this kind of helps you like get ahead with figuring out where you want to go and for how long. You might find that, oh, this campground I wanted wasn't available, and you have to like adjust. But you'll see once we build out a whole trip how flexible it is to make changes like that. Okay, I got my Camp Margaritaville stay on here. You can see that I'm going right from Tampa to Camp Margaritaville. Staying for 3 nights, and it's telling me it's a 34-mile drive. It's about 36 minutes. So I have my first stop on there. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my next stop. Usually what I do is essentially like search for where I'm going. So I know that after that we're going to be heading up to Charleston because we have some work to do in Charleston that next week. So I'm going to put in Charleston, South Carolina. And right now I'm just going to put the city. Let's see what that does. So it's giving me just basically downtown Charleston. So that's another way you can plan it out if you don't really want to spend the time to specifically look at campgrounds and like figure all that out right now. You can also just kind of put in like the main points that you're going to, the main cities and towns, and kind of almost like build it out that way first as like a more broad look at your trip, and then later on go in and like start adding in the specific campgrounds. So real quick, something I want to share with you guys about the map view is you can actually change your map settings to show like what is showing on the map. So you can, change like the style of the map if you want the satellite view or whatever. Then you have driving radius, which you can change if you want advanced or classic. Classic radius is going to basically show as the crow flies, or you can do advanced, which is going to be like specifically based on the route I'm going to have to take, how many miles am I going to accumulate. So I would actually think advanced would make more sense. I'm going to leave that turned on. And then right here also I have show campgrounds turned on, show point of interest. I can enable filters, which basically allow me to narrow down like campgrounds I'm looking at based on certain amenities, types of parks. I'll actually leave that turned on. I think that's pretty cool. And then also you can show low clearances. Then over here they have a lot of stuff. It looks like this is a beta feature to show like public land. So we don't really get to do a lot of that on the East Coast, but if you're out west and you're trying to use like BLM land, you can turn that on to show you areas. It looks like it'll also show you like national parks and monuments. And then also you can even turn weather layers on to show radar, wind speed, wildfires, and also time zone changes. So I think the way I have it set up now is going to work for me. I can actually show or close this kind of research panel. So I'm going to close that just to have a better view of the map. And as you can see, I'm in Charleston here. And if I zoom out, you can see these little points on the map. Those are actually campgrounds. And the way I kind of do it, honestly, if I'm looking for a campground in an area, is I'll go on the map view like this and I'll kind of just like click on them and, look at how high their reviews are, because I kind of like to zone in on the campgrounds I'm interested in based on location first. For example, if I'm trying to do a lot in downtown Charleston while I'm there, the closer I am to downtown Charleston, the better. So I'll usually look on the map view, and that way I can kind of browse the campgrounds that are closer to where I want to be. So for example, here's a Mount Pleasant, Charleston KOA, Thanes RV Park, Oak Plantation Campground. It looks like actually a lot of the campgrounds in the Charleston area are pretty nice. We have actually been to a campground in Charleston before. Okay, here it is. I actually hearted it before, so it was cool. It put the little like heart icon on the campground. So this is where Will and I stayed last time we went to Charleston. So I think that we're probably going to plan to stay there again, just because we know we already like it and it's pretty affordable. I can go on here now and say add to trip. So we're actually going to be in Charleston for a while because we are helping our friend open up a new RV1 store there. So we're actually going to be there for 10 nights. So I'm going to put 10 nights in. Again, I'm going to say add the stop after my last stop. But as you can see now, it shows all the stops on my trip and like what order they're in. So if I've already like planned out my trip and then I'm like, oh, I want to add another stop and it's going to be kind of like in the middle between stop 5 and 6, I can choose to add it after stop 5 and then everything will adjust after that. So that's what I really love, is how flexible this tool is. So I'm going to say add it after my last stop and add to the trip. And now you can see on the left here that it's added James Island County Park, how many miles it is from Camp Margaritaville, and my nights. Now, what I want to show you now is how flexible it is. So, I put in that we were leaving RV1 to Tampa on March 20th. In reality, that will be a different date. So I started with March 20th just to show you guys that when you need to adjust dates or adjust the order of things, how that change will trickle down within your trip. So in reality, we'll probably be picking up the RV on like March 29th. That's probably like the best estimate. So I'm gonna go ahead and change that and save it. And as you can see, now everything has adjusted of when I'm checking into a campground and checking out. Because I didn't lock in those stays, all I have in there is how many nights I want to stay there. So when I change the starting date, all of that will adjust. So now we're checking into Camp Margaritaville on March 29th and checking out on April 1st, then checking into the campground in Charleston on April 1st, and we're there for 10 nights. So now I'm going to go ahead and do kind of like a time lapse and just build out our plans a little bit more, and then I'll check back in with you guys after I've done all that. Alright guys, I'm back. So I just built out basically a few months worth of travel with the RV, and you know, some of it's tentative, some of it's planned. So my strategy with planning out our RV trips is I like to go on and put the stops that I know exactly when we're going to be there and that we have to be there. So for example, I know that we have to be in Nashville, Tennessee for the Matt's RV Reviews rally. Those dates are set. We definitely have to be there. It's not really like flexible days. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to put on the calendar first and kind of lock that in and then plan around it. So I went ahead and basically put in Four Corners RV Resort in Nashville, Tennessee. The rally is from the 17th to the 20th, but we're going to get there on the 10th just to kind of get ready and explore Nashville a little bit before the rally starts. So I made sure to put that in for those exact dates that I know we have to be there. And you'll see that we're leaving from basically home before that, most likely. Again, this is kind of flexible because we might end up planning something before that. But as of right now, we're going to be home and then we're going to head to Nashville. So as you can see, I put in staying at the Four Corners RV Resort on the 10th, but we leave our house on the 9th, so I have like one night in between where we're gonna have to fill it because we likely won't be able to drive all the way to Nashville in one day. And so I like that when I have those gaps in between, that RV Life will kind of notify me, hey, you have one night available here that you need to fill. And so I know that if I have to get like an in-between campground or whatever in between our major stays, that it's kind of like, it's very apparent that I need to do that. They really call that out. So that's a feature I really like. And as you can see, I have this lock icon next to some of our stays. So these are the things that it's like, I know that these won't change. I probably could take it off for home because that's flexible a little bit. But for our Matt's RV Reviews rally, that's locked in. And then actually right after that, we're going to be in Elkhart for the Alliance RV rally. So those dates are locked in as well. So I made sure to put a lock on those so that, you know, as I add things or move things around, like it does not change that. That's the stuff that you actually want to put on your trip first. Plan those things out if you know that you have to be somewhere at a certain time because like maybe you're meeting friends or whatever the case may be. Make sure to lock that in and kind of plan that out first, and then go back and look at like the space in between that you can fill, and then you can start kind of like building that out. So that's kind of my strategy, and I think that's a strategy that's pretty common with RVers, is planning out that way. As you can see too, what's nice is I haven't built out the whole year's worth of trips, but I have planned out like a couple months, and it'll tell me how many miles I'm going to be doing, how many nights we're talking about. Some of that is at home. I can actually click also here and say show entire trip, and it's going to basically show like my whole route. Now when you're looking at that, I'd probably recommend coming here and turning campgrounds and places of interest off so you get a cleaner view. But this essentially shows like our path and what our route's going to be. So that's really cool, just to kind of get like a map view of your whole trip and what it's going to look like and the route that you're going to take. This is a very, very robust tool, guys. And so I would definitely say to come in here, start building out a trip. You'll learn how to use it the best by just using it and planning a trip with it. Check out all the cool features. There's just so many things that they built in here to make the process of planning out your RV trips and your campgrounds a lot better. For example, points of interest, you can see fuel, rest areas. I mean, they even have Cabela's on here, Camping World, Cracker Barrel, the Love's travel stops. I mean, they have a lot of stuff on here, guys. I would take advantage, and you know, the more that you can plan out for your year and your travels, the better. And this is definitely, like, I think a great tool to utilize to do that. Alright guys, that wraps up our whole tutorial of how we plan out our trips with RV Life Trip Wizard. Hopefully this video was helpful, and I definitely encourage you guys to go and check out the tool if you're interested in it. Sign up for RV Life. I forget exactly, do you know the cost that it is?
It just went up. I think its normal cost is $60 now.
Yeah, for the year.
For the year, yeah. So it's not bad at all.
No, it's not bad, and like just like the amount of tools that you get access to for that, to me it's a great deal. We have it ourselves. We use the Trip Wizard, which I pretty much use Campground Reviews through Trip Wizard, like as I'm just like planning it out. We use the RV Safe GPS, and I know that they have like some other tools, but those are like the 3 that are most popular. So definitely I'll have a link to that down below if you guys are interested in signing up for that. Again, you can try the discount code Matt's RV Reviews in all caps. I'm not sure if it'll still be active when you watch this video, but I would definitely try it just in case.
If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe. We make videos like this every Wednesday, and we do a vlog every Sunday as well. Also, if you use RV Life or any other platform for planning your trips, please let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to hear about different options.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.